King. I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center. I've been here for the past 15 years, and I've seen it all, heard it all, done it all, said it all. So, the Small Business Development Center is here to help you out, whether you can start a business, whether you want to grow your business, whatever you want to do, we're here to help you out. So, without further ado, this is your program.
Hi.
I'm going to get out of the way.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say, first of all, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Tara Tyndell, and I'm the owner of a small business in Southeast Texas called Tidy Spaces. I want to thank Miss Christie, Lamar University, and the Chamber of Commerce for inviting us to speak today. So I want to keep this conversation super candid. I'll have sections where you guys can ask me questions, and I would encourage that. So just to start off, I just want to say how grateful I am for Tidy Spaces. We are a professional organization business based out of Orange, Texas, but we do serve all of Southeast Texas. And I'm grateful for my husband to be here today supporting me. He is my business partner, and he keeps me more organized than myself, I think. So I'm super grateful for that. That's the secret. And that's just, I'll just start that off. That's a great point, because I think from the 4 years of professional experience that I've had, there is this idea that there's this perfection and this perfect place in life and in your organization journey, and the truth is there is not. And people carry all this guilt and these things that weigh them down, and the honest truth of it is it's about progress, not perfection. So we're going to talk about that today. So the title of this program is The Power of an Organized Business. So I'm excited to see that organization, the topic, has become more mainstream over the last several years. It's always been around, but you may have heard of an author of the book called The Magic Art of Tidying Up, Marie Kondo. She is from Japan. She's more of an extreme minimalist. That's a great book to read. You can listen to it on Audible as well. Really great points if you're heading more toward a more minimalist lifestyle. Also on Netflix, there is a show called The Home Edit, The Organizers. If you haven't seen that, you should check it out. It gives you more of an idea of the physical act and what takes place in a professional organizer's life. So, the power of an organized business, the power of organization, period, is that it does affect every aspect of your life. Personally, professionally, personal relationships, everything you do at work. So that's incredibly important. And there are some things that are just, I would say, common sense, but just like organizing, when I started Tidy Spaces and I would go into clients' home, I truly thought everyone could organize things. That's not the case, and I just did not realize that everybody's got their strengths, in different things. As far as basic business rules, basic things you have to have organized are your profits and losses, your finances. That's super important. Employee resources. Is your team organized? If you're not organized, they're probably not going to be either. And you're the leader of the team, so they're going to follow suit with what you do on the whole. And your time, such a valuable asset. If you're not organized in your time, you're going to struggle in that area as well. And I know there are people who have larger businesses. Some of you may be thinking about starting a business. Some of you may have recently started a business. So this is a great topic. I had never owned a business before. My husband had owned a business for 30 years. So I've been fortunate enough to glean a lot of wisdom from him. He has helped me avoid some pitfalls as well. But there's just a lot of things you have to learn on your own, especially if you are the sole leader managing that business. Okay, larger businesses, you're going to have the team in place, people in place, managers. If you're new, you have to learn these things on your own and manage those things as well. So, as the leader or the owner of the business, you being organized, you have a platform to make better decisions in that regard if you're organized. And again, your team is going to follow suit. You have to show them how to do those things. If you don't have all the organizational tools, that's fine. You learn those as you go. But you have to start that journey somewhere. Okay? Just a great example I love to use when we go to a client's home. Say we have some clients, we've done multiple projects in their home, or you're meeting someone new. This applies to work and personal life. One of the most wonderful things I've learned that's been super powerful for me personally is learning that physical clutter is an outward manifestation of something going on internally. I just want to let that soak in. It's super. Outward clutter is the manifestation of what's going on the inside, in my experience. And I'm preaching to the choir on that deal as well. And so my goal with this business, yes, I wanted to have the business, and you want to be the best and you want to make money. But I also wanted to make a difference. And I think that's the most important thing. So if you're going to effectively make a difference, you have to start with yourself, make a difference in your life, and then you can truly help those clients. It's not always about the money. And that was learning to listen. I love to talk, and I could do that for days, but I have had to really learn to listen to what they don't say as well. And you learn quite a bit about a home or a person when you're organizing their personal spaces. This could be closets, bathrooms, kitchens. I mean, it covers all areas. And you find out things they're telling you about themselves without saying a word. And so if I could give any pointers on that, try that with yourself. Be really honest with yourself. If you want to start in a space in your home or business to get organized, ask yourself those questions. Be super honest. And that's a good way to kickstart the organizing journey, okay? So, to begin, let's say you have a small business and you're in your 5th year, things have really picked up traction, you're becoming more and more busy, you have a small team in place. You have to learn to manage all of those areas effectively. If, say, you have inventory and their room is an absolute disaster, it's going to happen, okay? You have to address that. The longer you go and don't address it, the more chaotic it's going to become. This is going to affect your stress levels. It's going to affect you internally. It affects your team. They can't ever find what they're looking for, okay? You see where I'm going with this. Has anyone else experienced that besides me? Oh, good, okay. So that's super important. And what we do, whether it's a business we're organizing, sometimes we're doing paperwork, sometimes it's online files, whatever it may be. I thought you had a question, I'm sorry. You have to find the space that's causing the most overwhelm. That was another key point. I may go to a customer's home or business and they are in tears. They are absolutely stressed out. They do not know where to begin. And I think that is something else a lot of people struggle with. I'm so overwhelmed with it, I don't want to look at it. Let's just shove it in this back room and close the door and pretend it doesn't exist. You have to address it. It's just, the monster is just going to keep growing, and then this is going to affect something else. And it's like this domino game, the entire topic of organization really. Once this is in place and addressed properly, it's going to affect this. It's going to affect the inventory, the employees, your sales, etc. So that is what we would do on the first step is I would ask you, what is causing you the most stress? Overwhelm, and that's where we're going to start. Take a closet, for example. I'm taking everything out of that closet and starting over fresh. We're going to purge. We're going to get rid of what you don't need, the dead weight. Okay, and I'll talk more about that in the personal organization section. On the note of how powerful organization is the physical effect that it has afterward. So again, the example that a client's in tears when you get there, they don't know where to start. They're stressed to the max. We come in, we organize the space. I don't always get to see the reactions because I may be gone, before they get home. But that has been one of the most beautiful things that I've experienced, to have the joy of seeing the after effect of your work that you do and how that affects a person immediately. They're in tears when you start, they come home and you open that door and the look of shock on their face. That after effect is an immediate physical response. And sometimes they cry, sometimes they just laugh, they can't believe it. To see that instant weight lifted off of them. And then, tell you that it feels like a weight came off. They didn't realize how heavy this burden was. And it may sound silly, but it's the truth. Things, whether it's work or home, it can really weigh you down, okay? I had a young girl on a project when I first started, and super intelligent, artistic, bright kid, and I had the pleasure of organizing her bedroom while she was at church camp, and that was one of the most beautiful responses. Her mom filmed it for me, and sent it to me afterward, and she just immediately burst into tears. Of course I cried, it was just such a beautiful human response, and the statement that this child at 10 made was, she's looking around the room and she said, "It's stabilized." And that never left me, out of the mouth of babes, right? So that was just a super honest answer from this child. And if that could affect her that way, then it affects adults that way as well, okay? So as far as organization, once you start with the most difficult space that's causing the overwhelm or the bottleneck in your business, we want to get that addressed, and then from there you're going to have the brain space and the time, hopefully, to focus on the next area that needs to be addressed as well. And it's back to that domino effect. Find what's most important, prioritize that, do whatever you need to do to address that. And the next thing, and the next, and so on and so forth. On the topic of keeping things you don't need, this goes hand in hand, work and personal life. Times change, things change, your business is going to grow. It's hopefully going to morph into a new stage, and if you sell products or whatever it may be, there are going to be changes there. There are going to be things you don't need any longer, supplies you don't need anymore. Again, that physical part, things are just going to pile up on you. You're going to want to go through those things and purge them. There's no sense in storing and paying for storage space for a bunch of stuff you don't need to have around anymore. That's again going to free you up to focus on where you are now in your growth period, okay? It's like the analogy of watering dead plants. Does no good, and you're spending all of your precious time, energy, and resources focusing on something that no longer matters, okay? Does anybody have any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Okay. After you get your spaces organized, this is a huge point, and in my personal and work experience as well. I used to get more excited about the organizing itself, and it's still exciting, but the real meat is the maintenance. People don't want to talk about that part. It's not typically addressed. It's more important than the organizing itself. That is an ever-changing, ever-evolving topic. Things that you purge go out, new things are going to come in. You have to learn to continue to manage those spaces. So if we go see a client and we do a job, I can tell them I can make it look like Pinterest and beautiful and buy all the acrylic tubs and all of these wonderful things to make it look like the magazine or TV, but that's not necessarily realistic. And we found over time too, certain products that do and don't work. I don't want you to waste your money on things you don't need and have more. You have the containers, but they're really more clutter type of thing. We want to find things that are effective for people to use in the spaces, as well as making sure that they understand how they're going to maintain that space after we leave. You have to live with it, right? You have to manage the business. You're the one who has to get back up and go to work every day and handle those things on your own. Everybody operates differently. We think differently. We do things differently. You manage differently. So it's key to understand yourself if you're trying to organize your business, how you operate. Be super honest with yourself about that, because when you put those new things in place to maintain the space, you're going to want to teach your team those things as well. If you're the business owner, you're super busy. You're not going to have time to stop every 2 days and fix that space, right? You're going to want to teach your team again how to do things the way you want them done and maintain them properly. And that's a kind of an evolving thing. Like I said, it's a revolving door as well. It never ends. So if y'all have any questions on that, I would be super interested to hear your feedback on that topic. And also, I like to use the example of something I learned in a job that I had before we started this business. And I had gotten into management. I really got into a place where I was more interested about the business side of things. I wanted to know how things worked from A to Z, not just the work we were doing every day. And I quickly learned there are bumps in the road all along the way, right? Personally or work, that's just life, okay? So I had a sign in my office that said, change the plan, but never the goal, okay? Same with organizing. Life's gonna change, something's going to happen, things at work will change, employees change, no matter what it may be, you have to learn to move forward with that. Change your plans, be flexible. I know you guys have probably heard that, flexible in your methods, but your overall goal is always the same, okay? As an example of a work-related, maybe my true introduction into the business side of organizing, I didn't even know at the time. Prior to Tidy Spaces, I had a corporate job at a facility in Southeast Texas, and my personal experience, I wanted to start taking on more and learning and managing and learning more about that business, and I took on some things that no one in particular wanted to do. They weren't fun things. I started seeing things in assets, taking on some of those things, inventory tracking, which is super important if you run a small business or a large business. It's imperative to know where assets are, make sure things are accounted for, make sure you're not double buying things you don't need, okay? Which also causes what? Clutter, okay? Over time. And so basically, to make a long story short, it was a fabrication facility. People weld pipe for our large facilities in Southeast Texas, and filler metal is something that they use, which has all different types of chemical makeup, okay? It's super important. Not a lot of people were thinking about that at the time, per se. It was the room where this inventory was stored was in complete disarray. I know absolutely nothing about these items. They're in very heavy, maybe 50-pound boxes, okay? But there could be hundreds of different types. So for whatever job the individual's working on, they basically go to a tool room and say, I need this because I'm working on this project. That's kind of how that works. Well, it was in such a disorganized mess. People were just grabbing things. It was scattered all over the plant, etc. You get the idea. So I take on this wire room, and it's shelves and shelves and shelves of filler metal just scattered abroad. I was terrified. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. You have to start somewhere, right? So I understood this is what this is for. This metal is used for this. This is what this chemical makeup is. All of these should be together, right? And I kept it really basic. We cleaned the room up. Well, the beautiful after effect of that is things are organized. It made things more efficient throughout the entire plant. So one of the biggest things I learned was that, the filler metal that nobody really wanted to deal with, that affected everybody's job in that facility. You have quality control, you have material people, you have all kinds of departments doing different things with one particular item, right? So by fixing that issue and getting it organized, it saved the plant money, okay? People weren't buying extra inventory they no longer needed. Look at the man hours, because guess what happens? If you weld that pipe with the wrong filler metal, you got a serious problem. Then you have to go cut that out, right? More man hours, more money. You're on a deadline to get these things out. So that's just a really good real life work example for me on how getting organized had an effect long term and affected other people as well in that facility. Also in business, you want to organize your people, your team, your staff. They're super important. None of us have a successful business on our own. Well, maybe some people do. But I would like to think that most people, your team is super valuable. And as the leader of that team, you have to see your employees' strengths and weaknesses and organize that team in a manner where they're effective, where they need to be. Okay? This is a fun topic, time management. So, time is your most valuable asset that you have. You cannot create more time. And when that time is passed, you cannot get it back. This is great for work and your personal life as well. If you're disorganized all the time, and I say this from personal experience, everybody thinks, oh, you're a professional organizer, your life must look perfect. I'm not helping you if I tell you that it is. It's not. I have to do the same thing that I tell others. It's about progress, not perfection, and find the areas where I struggle and I have to improve as well. And time management is one of them for me as it has grown overnight. You know, we started off, no one knew who we were at all. And the whole business actually started, I organized a friend's closet, and that's how it all began. And we just kind of got our name out there through referrals. That was the beginning, and then I started really listening to what people needed. If you're thinking about starting, just as a side note, this was super important, something that I learned. If you can find a problem that people have or a need, and you can solve that problem, you have a business, okay? And that's a great starting point for you. You don't have to have it all figured out, okay? I hope that encourages somebody that's maybe thinking about starting a business. So anyhow, back to time management. In the beginning, it was easy. You're not getting any phone calls, okay? You're new. Nobody knows who you are. That's easy to manage. And you're doing the little fun things on, you know, oh, I'm going to go buy some organizing products, and that's all fun. And then you start getting those referrals. You build a name for yourself. You start to get busy. You build a clientele. Now you have employees, and before you know it, they can grow literally overnight. How are you going to manage that change? That's a good change, but you have to make sure that you manage yourself again, making sure you're organized every day, managing your time effectively. Super important, because again, you can't get it back. And as a side note as well, I like to think about the topic of money, which we want to make money. That's why you're in business, right? Money versus time. Which one do you value to be more important? I think that's another really good question. And I feel like if you're managing your time well and effectively, the money will follow that. Any questions? Okay. Also, as a leader or entrepreneur, small business owner, manager of a business, you being organized communicates to your entire team your vision that you have for that business as well. And you do have a mission to be organized. You should be. And this is going to inspire your employees. It's going to help them reach their goals, hopefully personally, professionally. And by doing that, it's going to inspire them to help you reach your goal as well. And I like the phrase, Rome was not built in a day. So back to that, it takes time. Building a business takes time. It takes hard work and tenacity and learning how to manage changes, like I said. And I want to use something else that I learned a few years ago. I would go to my projects and I would listen to podcasts from different business leaders, just trying to soak up any information I could to learn. And many of you will know who Mr. John Maxwell is. He is a renowned business owner and international public speaker. If you have not listened to him, you can download the podcast. It's wonderful. He covers an array of topics, and it's super inspirational as well. And something that he said in a podcast one day, he was having a candid conversation with a friend, and the friend said, John, it's lonely at the top. To which Mr. Maxwell's reply was, if it's lonely at the top, why didn't you take anybody with you? I will never forget that. And that's one of the most beautiful things I've heard about business. I wanted to be a leader. I want to have a successful business. I want to be a professional organizer. I'm not going to get there by myself. And you shouldn't want to. Take that team with you. Back to the organizing. It's not just for you. You're teaching them while you're teaching yourself. And it's going to help everybody grow. So I just thought that was such a powerful and beautiful point that he had made. And I hope that helps somebody today. Back to basic physical things in your business that have to be organized. It ties right back into your profits and losses, physical things you have to take care of, level of importance as well. Office spaces, paperwork is a huge topic. I know many people have things online now. Email inbox is another one. It's where do you even begin, right? Inventory, stock rooms. So you have to physically address all of those things in your business. Another business topic I would like to talk about that just from personal experience that I think is super important is social media. And that's a fun topic for everyone. I think it's really a great tool. It's a double-edged sword sometimes, but on the whole, we are living in a time when you can harness the power of free advertising through social media, and this is excellent for your business. Many of you have this. If you have a larger business, you have admins or people in place who manage those things for you. If you are a new business owner or a small business, you're going to have to learn to manage that yourself until you're in that place where you can hire someone to do that for you, and that is a full-time job if you are using it effectively, and you should. So one thing I wanted to address on that note was it kind of ties in with your time management. It will keep you super busy. So for example, we started Tidy Space's Facebook business page right at the beginning, had no followers, nobody knows who you are or what you do. And it has been an amazing blessing over time. We, in less than 4 years, have built a following of about we surpassed 8,000 people last week. All organic traffic. It takes up a lot of your time. And I would suggest to new business owners, pick one platform to learn to manage, keep up with the changes, learn what you can, effectively use that tool because it's going to help your business in a big way. But you have to be organized with your social media as well. So if you get to the point where you can have someone help you handle that, definitely do that. But on the Facebook side, and maybe one of you can educate me on this as well, one thing that I found that's super interesting is we do offer several different services, but Facebook through the messenger side or your inbox does not differentiate between those customers when they ask you questions. If we're hosting a large estate sale that weekend, once I've shared that post, 300 and 400 people a day are reaching out. And that will go on for days. I can only manage so much of that. And then in the fray of that, you have 10 or 15 people in 2 days who are interested in your services. I need to have a sale. I need to have a consultation. Hey, please call me. So that is a super important point, I think, on the note of the social media is learning not only to manage your phone calls, texts, your website messages, but your social media as well. And make sure that each day, if you have to, you go back through that list and check those things. So if any of you have any tips on that part, I would be super interested and you would be helping me out as well. And like I just said, managing your to-do list, that is a stickler. That is something you have to do daily, weekly, monthly to reach the goals in your business and your personal life that you want to reach. Edit them often. I always joke with my customers and I say, my sticky notes have sticky notes. And I can't keep up with them all sometimes. That's just the truth. You're running and going and things get lost. A lot of people like to use phone applications for keeping their notes, the reminders. There are other really great apps out there for that. If you have the time to sit down and learn to manage that. For me, I was in a position where one more app and thing to keep up with, that wasn't going to work. So I've had to learn over time to adjust those lists constantly. If you don't, it's going to cost you money and it's going to cost you clients. You're going to forget. Your brain can only hold so much information at any given time. I actually had the pleasure of attending a class one time, and that was a huge topic of conversation, was that even an individual with a high IQ can only hold 8 to 9 things that they're in their brain at any given time. Okay, after that, they had this example basically of a little cliff and little things falling off the cliff. And that's exactly what your brain does. You cannot physically possibly manage all of those thoughts. Write them down, type it in your phone, use your voice activated features on your phone, whatever you have to do, and constantly go through and edit that list. Super important. Another fun topic everyone likes to discuss is procrastination. And it's like the monster of all things when it comes to business. Again, you have to be honest with yourself about whether or not you are procrastinating. I have struggled with it, especially if you're in a state of overwhelm and then you get a little bit of free time. You just want to enjoy that free time, okay, when there's things you need to be doing. And that is a huge personal point that I'm willing to admit I have struggled with. And again, I think if I'm going to be helpful, then it's about being honest with people. And sometimes people don't want to speak up and say, oh, I really do struggle with that. And I think really a lot of things we all struggle with. Nobody wants to feel like the odd man out and speak up about that thing. But that absolutely affects our organizing clients. And when we go into a home, they have procrastinated. They do not want to face this mountain that's in front of them. And I don't even know that they're in a place where they know to call it that, but that's what it is, internally and externally. And they just keep putting it off, and they keep putting it off. Same with work. There are areas you know you need to address. Oh, I see a little problem happening over here. Sally's not doing what she's supposed to do. That stock room's getting out of hand, whatever it is. It's going to grow. The monster grows, okay? Nip it in the bud, address it, be honest with yourself. Same with team members, okay? And I think that procrastination is a place where people really do get stuck. And if you can help as a leader, team member, with your clients, whatever it may be, help get them out of that mud hole and just maybe help them get started in the right direction, okay? There's another book, and I know you guys have heard of this one. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. You can download it on Audible as well. I listen to this in the shower. I mean, it's a never-ending loop. Basically, listen to 10 minutes of it a day if you have to. It helps you get more done in less time, and that's another point I'm about to come to, is that we live busy lives these days. We're living in a time where we're busier than we've ever been, and procrastination can sneak up on you easy. So that's a great resource to listen to as well if you need some. Go ahead. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. And basically what that book does is teaches you how to break things down into bite-sized steps, which we've also used that same mentality in organizing. When someone's faced with this shop that's, we open the door and we can't even walk inside, okay, it happens. And again, I want to make this clear too. You won't get any judgment from me. I mean, things happen in life. There are all types of different situations. Things happen. I'm just here to help you address those things, and let's get kick-started. If we keep focusing on the problem, that's not solving anything. We have to help you find solutions to move forward. So even if you focus on, don't look at the whole staircase. Just pick that first step, put your blinders on, do what you have to do to dig in, get organized, get the things done, clear your mind, get your mind and thoughts organized, okay? And then you can look at the staircase. And you'll find that as you take those steps and it clears up that brain space, you're going to be able to see the bigger goals of what you want to focus on, okay? Does anyone have any questions? Anything business related? Go ahead.
What's the worst disaster you've ever had that?
Okay, that's a great question. So I will tell you, I have seen it all. There are true hoarder situations, and that is super emotional. There's also a lot of psychology that goes behind that, or with that rather. And in my personal experience in dealing with a true hoarder situation, I have had to learn that I'm not a therapist. I do try to listen. I think that alone is very cathartic for people. Sometimes they just want to feel heard. What I've learned about a home or space that is a hoarder situation is that there's usually a trauma or something that's happened that started the process over time, and that I also cannot effectively help them without them being in therapy as well. But that is real. It's not just on TV, and it's, it affects people everywhere, different family members. On a funny note, just to make a long story short, we also do different types of services. So we do host moving and estate sales for people. Well, in the beginning, we were doing much smaller sales. So I have a bit of a country accent, you know, if I'm just being candid, and I'd talk to the lady about what we were doing, and I went for the consult and all these things. And then she said, well, what do I need to do to get ready? And I said, just build me a pile in the garage, and then when I get there, we'll take care of it. She literally built me a mountain, you know. I actually have a picture my mother-in-law took of me just, you know, ta-da. It was super interesting. Everything was just pieced together. I mean, that's what happens. People just disorganized. It happens, you know. They just throw it all in a pile. So I've seen some things. That is for sure. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
I got a few more about that.
Sure.
Other people.
Anyone else? Well, go ahead.
Somebody else has.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I'm in the real estate business.
Yes.
I have a scenario going on right now, and I'll share this with you because I might need a tip.
Okay.
But I have a sweet little elderly lady, which I've known for 15 years. I've helped her. She helped me out. I've helped her. Her house is being sold.
Yes.
She moved in with her mother. Her mother recently passed.
Yes.
So between her and her mother and two houses, they've all crammed it into one house.
Yes.
She's over there having an estate sale by herself. She
That's
spent 2
tough.
months to prepare this house.
Right.
When we first went into this house, you could not see the floor.
Yes.
It was piled to the ceiling. We've
Yes.
since condensed, and now we can actually see. She's got an apartment. We piled her apartment tall to the ceilings because I'm not what you do. I'm get the job done.
Yes.
So we can get the house sold and get
Absolutely.
back to your name. That's
Sure.
my agenda.
Absolutely.
Now she's over there hosting an estate sale. She's supposed to close on Friday, and the buyer that's buying the house says we want everything out by Friday.
Yeah.
She's 84 years old.
Yes.
So what do we? I mean, I have connections too, but
Yes.
I'm interested.
Sure.
in hearing.
And that is an excellent topic, and that was actually something, I'll go ahead and hit on this because this ties into something I was going to talk about on the personal level at the end of this, or more toward the end. I have met several realtors doing what we do, and you're absolutely right. You have a job to do. You've got to get this house sold. It's crunch time. Houses sell like hotcakes, okay? Elderly clients, they can only physically do so much, okay? The buyer is going to want to move into their fresh, clean home. So that is why I tell customers, especially, and I'm at the beginning of millennials, okay, and on down, they have a different mentality about things. Our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were from the Great Depression era, okay? They looked at physical things completely differently, and with good reason. I absolutely understand that. We also consume now at an all-time high. You're busier than ever and you're consuming more than ever. Well, that's going to pile up somewhere. And then you're going to turn around and go, oh my gosh, what have I created? And if that has happened to you, it's okay. Stop beating yourself up. That's what we're here to talk about, is how to help you navigate through that. And that is exactly why I have learned to have a super honest conversation with my clients. These kids, on the whole, they are not going to want your china. They are not going to want it, and that's going to break your heart. But if I'm going to help you now while you're mentally capable and able-bodied, let's start addressing this stuff now. You've had it piled in the attic, in these storage buildings that you're paying for. You don't even know what's in there. It's piled to the ceiling. You can't walk through the house. That's a whole different array of issues, right? From your perspective, for sure. Start getting this stuff out of here. Now, tell the kids what the heirlooms are. Tell them what the pictures mean. Share those things with them, because this is exactly what's going to happen. Is either the children are going to be dealing with it after you pass and they're going to throw it away, or they're not going to know who these people in these pictures are because no one ever told them, or those sentimental things weren't shared with them, the heirlooms, etc., and so they don't have that value of importance with those items. And it leaves a burden for your kids to clean up things that they don't want. And it's, again, heartbreaking for the person who saved and poured all this money and time into saving all these things that are not wanted.
They think they're worth a fortune.
Another excellent point. That is the truth of the matter. People save things. Hey, these are very good points. It's the truth. And I deal with that on that topic as well. It's another reason I like people to purge as time goes on, because guess what, ladies? I'm with you. I love clothes, I love shoes, I love makeup, accessories, and that is perfectly fine. I can go in there and tell a client, don't you buy any more clothes? That is not realistic. You're going to. Styles change. You're going to want to change the way your home looks. It's going to happen. So what I tell them is, as soon as my suggestion would be, buy more quality items, okay? Spend more money on the quality items and things that you absolutely love and put those things in your home. Start cycling out, and that's what I do. We put a system in place where, hey, I brought in 10 new shirts today. Well, we're getting rid of 10 of something else. We have to. If not, you're right back where you started. Hence the situation he's talking about, because that cycle wasn't happening. And with someone at 84, their mentality is completely different, because they were taught to save everything because I'm going to need it. And they did, okay? And they didn't. Yeah.
She had a gun, okay? Garage sale. She had a gun that she didn't know she had.
Yeah.
And a guy says, is this for sale? And she like freaked out. There was a gun in her house?
Yeah. And that's another huge point.
Little things, just, yeah, right.
And that's another huge point, is that over time, especially years and years of somebody living in one residence, they don't realize, you just forget. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. You know, you put things away, you forget you have them, or you lose them and you can't find them because you're so cluttered you don't know where they are. And on the point of value for an estate sale customer, that is a shame, because people either think they have things that are worth $1 million, like you said, and they're worth $5 million. And then our job is to research those things and make sure you're not giving away something valuable, and that happens. Or you have guns or things like this you don't know about. So
We had to tell her today that we're going to have to hire a truck and a dumpster, and you're going to have to go sit in your apartment so you don't watch it, because we are meeting a deadline, and this poor lady needs these funds to live on.
yes.
And if she doesn't make it happen, my job as a realtor is to make that deal happen so she gets her funds.
Yes.
If it don't happen, she's going to be stuck with all those $1 million treasures that are worth a penny. So,
It's true. Those are all great points. And that is a whole other process too, is having to, there are emotions tied up in our things. I'm super sentimental. There are things I'm just not going to part with. Mainly would be my photos or videos of my mother. I can't replace those things, right? Everybody has something that they really care about. But it's such a tragedy, really, and a shame to see that, like you said, this poor lady at the end of the day, and I have seen situations where things weren't addressed like they could have been, where they could have gotten organized. Great point. And then what happens in the long run? She could be sitting down here crying her eyes out, watching things that meant something to her go in the trash. And with the right maintenance and processes in place, these things can be avoided. So thank you for sharing that, because that is absolutely the truth and something that we've seen as well. So I feel for you too on your end, because you're trying to do your job and get things done, and you're dealing with these issues. And I think it's interesting from a realtor standpoint, and we've met several doing this that we're good friends with, is have you seen an increase in that? I'm super interested to talk, maybe later on talk about that as well. If over time, since you've been a realtor, you've seen a drastic change in that area, which tells me, again, people are just buying and buying and buying. And it's not being organized or managed or purged. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I've got one.
Sure.
So over my life, I've been one of those people that if you never really been to my house or whatever, then kind of you don't know kind of thing. Everybody thinks that I'm super organized.
Yes.
I've got it together. I'm like, no, what
right.
you see here is very different
Yeah.
than kind of what's inside and what is actually portrayed in my space.
Yes.
Right. And so, for someone like me, I also found out after undergrad that I'm ADHD.
Right.
And so that's a whole nother, I've been doing a lot of podcasts and self-research on that aspect of it.
Yes.
But if I've got one space that's the really overwhelming space that you're talking about, and I I don't have a lot of other space to kind of pull it all out and like deal with it.
Yes.
In a situation like that, would it be a bad idea or potentially a good idea just to like clear it all out, like in boxes, take it to like a unit and just have that clarity? So then it's not right in your face all the time, and then kind of like deal with it in pieces and like another space outside of that. Is that a bad idea, or is that like?
If I gave you, and that's another excellent question, and I'll tell you just so that, just me being super transparent and honest here. So within the last year, I have had to come to the realization that I struggle with ADHD as a professional organizer. So off the cuff, people think, it's like you said, it's all bright and shiny and everything's in its place all the time. No, and I didn't even realize. So what I will do, I hyper focus on things, right? Which makes me good at what I do, okay? But I can struggle in other areas. So I definitely feel for you going through that, and it's a total learning experience on how to manage those things, especially owning a business now and other things as life changes. Yeah.
Getting to this point.
Yes.
Since when you start to kind of really delve into the brain part of it.
Absolutely, and the psychology behind it and the inner workings of it. And my suggestion, to be honest with you, I would not spend the money to rent another space. And I'll just tell you why from my experience I wouldn't. I'm not saying storage buildings don't have their place. They do, and that's a great business to be in, okay? But it's kind of just like what he was talking about. There is just something in us that if we have a space that we can fill up, we are going to do it. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to buy this because I have room for that. We'll just take this piece I don't want, but I don't want to let go of it, so I'm going to put it over here. Does that make sense? So I don't want to see you spend the extra money and resources on the building.
I already have one.
Okay.
That I've made, because I had one when I started my business, and then my business expanded, so I had more space to put that stuff in, right?
Right. Okay, so you have a business as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have a lot of time either.
I see.
And then, but then I started putting like my personal stuff in the spreadsheet. But I've got room.
Okay.
Per se.
I see. So you already have the building.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with being in business, I do understand that because you've got business supplies and things you have to do and your personal things. So to help you out, my suggestion would be kind of like I was saying, because this is what works for me and what I've seen with our clients. If it's super overwhelming and you're in a smaller space, this happens a lot too. People move from the big house, they sell and they move into the small house, and there is nowhere to put these things. Even if you have storage, it's just too much stuff. And sometimes that's just the bottom line answer is you don't have an organization problem. You have a I have too much stuff problem. And that's okay to admit. I'm not saying that's your case. I'm just as a side note, and just tying back into what he was saying, we have to filter through these things, even if you can only focus for 5 or 10 minutes that day. When you can get some quiet time, back to addressing whatever's causing you the most stress. Let's say it's black t-shirts, okay? Take 10 minutes, go through the t-shirts. You're going to either purge them, decide, do I love this? Why am I keeping this? Do I want this? Is it useful? When is the last time I used it? I haven't used it ever. I've had it 5 years. Let it go. And people, does that make sense? Do you find that to be helpful information?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Also trying to prevent a bigger overwhelm.
Yes.
On to thinking that, oh, if I clear this, this will relieve me of the immediate, but it's still going to be.
It's going to drive you crazy. Yes, which is possible. So just like if I come into a customer's house and we're doing the master closet, sometimes I'll get there and they'll say, well, I already tried to do this and I pulled all this out and I freaked out, okay? And that happens because it's just so much, and then they've pulled it all out and then it's all over the house. Or they're trying to start a project, which the ADD, ADHD, okay? I've got little piles here and I've got little piles here and I have a project over here. And this happens at work too, right? And then before you know it, there's many projects everywhere and nothing's getting done, right? So my overall suggestion on that would be take just the one space, address everything in there. Clear out what you don't need. It should free up some brain space in you. And that's totally personal for me as well. I've seen clients that that's been the case after the fact, and me as well. It just, in the back of my mind, things feel very overloaded in that regard if I was in that situation. And so once it's making yourself address it. Kind of comes back to that procrastinate. It's fine, I'm just pushing it off. But really inside, it's really causing a lot of stress. Your blood pressure's up, you're overwhelmed, you know. So you're feeding all that energy to these things that need to be addressed. And then once you can break down and address it and just deal with it, it frees up your mind to go, okay, I can breathe a little bit. I like the way this feels. This is how I want this space, okay? And you just have to be super honest with yourself about the space that you do have and how you're going to utilize it. A small side note on that part as well, I would say that one of the biggest tips I could give as far as using space is use your vertical space, okay? That helps a lot. Things that you don't need every day, put at the top, right? Things you need to have access to every day, eye level. Easy to get to, you can see everything. And I was kind of coming to this point. I'm glad you brought those questions up because that was the next section, was the shift in society of how we're busier than ever, we consume more than ever, okay? Nobody gave us lessons growing up on how to manage those changes. It just has happened as time has gone on. So I think a lot of people do need help in that area, okay? And that's okay to have that conversation. I'm excited that other people understand that that is a thing, okay? So back to the topic of what you're saying too, consuming all of these things over time, it causes tensions in your personal life as well, your work life, okay? It does affect you mentally. You become overwhelmed. Guilt is a huge factor and an honest thing to address as well. People feel guilty because they bought all these things. So what I want to do is say, hey, it's okay, I'm not judging you. Things happen for whatever reason. How can I help you kickstart this journey to get through this so that we can address these things that we need to address, okay? People can become depressed because it's just my personal opinion. At the end of the day, things are things. They're just things, okay? And you consume and buy and feel like that maybe that's going to fill a hole or fill something in you. And my honest opinion and truth that I've found is it's okay to buy things, but you can never buy enough things to fill up whatever that void is in your life. And that is hard to talk about with some people, but again, if I want to help you, that's the honest truth. Sometimes it's not just about organizing, okay? More about organizing in here and in here. So that comes back to asking yourself what really matters, okay? So you're gonna buy quality pieces, save your money, spend the money on things you love. Your home should be a place of peace, an escape from the world, a place you enjoy. Surround yourself with things that you do like, okay? If you don't like those things, let them go. Get rid of them. People, one of the biggest things they say, well, what if I need it later? Please tell me that somebody has said that in this room. Okay. I will tell you every now and then that's the case, but on the whole, it's not. It's just something we tell ourselves and we hang on to these things. So you have to get honest and say, why am I doing this? You're probably not going to use it. Let it go. On the topic of clothing is perfect. You've got 45 pair of black leggings. Your closet's a mess. You're late for work every day. What do? I can't find Johnny's socks. I'm late getting out the door. We're all stressed out, right? You go buy another pack of socks, right? You don't need them. If you're on you can relate to what I'm saying, okay? So you have to learn to put things in place that are easy to maintain. We're going to clean that closet out. I'm going to color code it. We're going to purge what we don't need. If I would give you a recommendation on one product to buy for a master closet, it would be to make the investment. You can buy these felt lined hangers on Amazon in bulk. It's very cost effective. Favorite product. Over time and time again, that's a simple product. They actually are slimming. They save space in your closet. It gives you this uniform aesthetic look that you want. It makes you feel good when you go in there because guess what? You're going to be in your closet every day. Work clothes are here. This is here, that, shoes, whatever. Put things where they make sense. Again, use that vertical space. Seasonal items, sweaters, which none of us want to wear right now. It's so hot outside. That needs to be up top, right? Because you don't have to reach that every day. Some clients may have physical issues and things, they can't reach those things. So you want to factor those things in as well, okay? If you have a disabled family member, and keep things eye level, decluttered, minimal. Life will change, okay? It happens to us all. Life is unpredictable. You have to learn to manage those changes, okay, in your home and your work life as well as your life changes. It's going to happen. And if you have a structure in place that you can manage, from time to time, sections or the closet or the pantry are going to get out of hand. If you have a basic maintenance structure, you can take that 10 or 15 minutes and tackle that. Don't procrastinate, okay? This is going to help you be less frustrated. It's going to make you feel like your home and work are less chaotic. Cost you less money. Hopefully you'll save some more money by not having to constantly run out and buy things you don't need, right? And it's going to save you from burnout, especially on the business side. That's super important, because if you're not organized, you're just going to start to feel like you're constantly chasing your tail, okay? Eating up that valuable brain space you have. Your people need you, your clients need you, your team needs you, okay? And y'all's questions covered quite a bit. That was great. So thank you guys for that. So on the whole, what I'm trying to say too is that organization it's been a very cathartic, freeing experience for me professionally and personally. I've met some of the most wonderful people through organizing. It's taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about people and what they're really dealing with. You start to see some of these same patterns and themes of things people go through, and I think it's a great conversation to have, whether it's work-related or personal, for things that people are dealing with, and how can we have these conversations more and be comfortable and talk about things that we need to address, and how do we get there, okay? So one last tip too on the topic of like what you were saying as well, or having multiple items in the home. I have like a 6-month rule, or a year, if you're super attached to a dress in your closet or something like that. So if we come in and we organize that closet, even if you only did one section, okay, just to kind of get yourself started, see how you feel about that so that you're not overwhelmed. Anything you're on the fence about, you're like, I kind of like this, but what if I can fit into it later, or I lost weight, or whatever the situation is. I think we've all done that, so we hang on to things. Okay, turn that hanger backwards. Come back in 6 months. If that hanger is still backwards, you're not going to wear it. Let it go. I hope that's just a really simple tip, but that has helped a lot of people. And again, on keeping things around that you don't need, those things that you're not crazy about. Sometimes that was from an old relationship, an old idea, a part of your past you weren't crazy about. Why keep that? Negative energy around you in your home. Again, let it go. And you think you'll miss it, but in my experience, even personally, I might think about it once in a blue moon, and I think, well, see, so that advice really worked. I take my own advice on that deal. And you pretty much, I was going to tie in with, on our estate sale and moving sale services, exactly what you were talking about. Something that has really drastically affected me is watching clients save all these things for years and years, thinking the kids are going to want them. Whatever the situation is, you need to have this sale, and then either people wait too long to get rid of their things and they're not worth anything anymore, or the style has changed, okay? Or it's just a mountain of attics and rooms full of treasures to them, which is okay, but to the other people, they're not. And I hate to see that process happen. So that's something that I think is a good conversation to have with your families as well, and start addressing those things while you're younger, okay? So in all of that being said, I feel like you cannot lose by getting organized. It's only a win-win situation, whether it's at work or at home or personal. What's it going to cost you, really? Some of your time, okay? But you're going to win in the long run if you can start to hone in on your organizing skills and learn to manage those things. It's definitely a 100% return on your investment. So thank you guys so much for listening to what I had to say today and inviting me. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Yes.